Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have this phone with our dear guest, Major General Ahmed Nasser, President of the African Sports Federations. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me in your show.
It's my pleasure to have you, Major Nasser. Well, Major Nasser, what is Egypt's qualifications in order to organize the Olympic Games?
Well, the matter of fact, the sports infrastructure has been established since quite some time ago, and with the, of course, the very special care of His Excellency, the President of the State, President Sisi, was really tremendous. I want just to tell you a very quick story, if your time allow. We were in Abuja, in Nigeria, with my colleague, Mr. Biraf, who is happened to be the president of African Association of National Olympic Committees, and who has this General Assembly. And we had 6 ministers. Among them, we had Dr. Ashraf Subhi was presenting all the sports infrastructure of Egypt. And after his presentation, everybody was just really taking off because it was fantastic presentation, and everybody said we are very proud to have such a sports infrastructure in Africa, and we have to move forward. That was my say with my colleague, Mr. Prof, as I am the African Association of Sports Confederation President. We took the decision to write to Egypt, not as an Egyptian, for myself, and we wrote already to the Dr. Ashraf Subhi as the Minister of Youth and Sport of Egypt, and we asked him if Egypt would like to be a candidate for 2036 Olympics. And the answer was, okay, we will give it to the authority and we will come back to you. The answer was yesterday during the visit of His Excellency IOC President Thomas Bach, and of course was announced by Dr. Ashraf that His Excellency the President already agreed that Egypt will run for the bidding of 2036.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that Egypt is going to win. We hope, of course, it's going to win, but this needs a lot of work because the decision will be on 2025. So you have at least only 3 years to go, and you have to work from now. And I'm sure that there is a plan concerning to that, and God knows who's going to be there by that time.
Yes. General Nasser, how do you see President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's keenness for Egypt to win hosting or organizing the Olympic Games 2036?
Well, let me give you the story from my side. As in charge of the African Association of Sports Confederations, which means that all the African sports, 75 Olympic, non-Olympic, and thematic confederations, it didn't come from scratch that most of the presidents of these associations are Egyptians. They are almost 1/4 of them. When I took over the presidency, there was only 14 presidents from Egyptians. But now we have 32 presidents. That didn't come from the out of the blue, but it came from when the President Sisi took over. He started to give a very good care to the sport and to Africa in general. So that's why we gained the trust again of all the Africans to try to help our qualified presidents from who took over for the African Confederation.
Yes.
So this is one of the samples. The other one is that the government of Egypt was giving and still giving a very big care and very important to all the sports in general, welcoming all the training camps, welcoming the courses, welcoming the competitions, welcoming competitions of all levels. We're talking about the regional, the continental, the world, the most efficient competition.
Yes.
This is how the IOC would look to a country. Does it have the main infrastructure to host? Does it have the sports infrastructure? And really good thing about the announcement of yesterday was very, very good to all, not only the sports, but all the country.
Yes.
Because as I said, it didn't come out of the blue, but it came from a lot of hard work preparing for having the good qualification for that.
Yes.
The good advantage that Egypt has in this term is, for the first time ever, that a city applying to host or going to the bidding to host have almost 80% of all the sports infrastructure to hold games, which
Yes.
means the rest is needed, of course, a lot of work, but at the end of the day, is going to have a big and golden chance.
Yes.
The second goal that I would like to say, why the IOC president was announcing that he is in favor that Egypt can win, because this would be the first time ever that any country in Africa would host Olympic Games. Of course, there is a youth Olympic Games will be in Senegal in 2026, but Youth Olympic Games, as you know, it is a culture get-together. It is not as competitive, of course, as the real Olympic Games.
Yes, General Nasser, and are there any African countries competing with Egypt to win organizing the Olympic Games?
Well, what we have seen during our meeting in Abuja, as I indicated too, with attendance of 6 ministers as well, I did not see, except all unity of all the African Confederation national people. They were together and deciding and insisting that Egypt is the one can be presenting with all the facilities that it has right now. As I said, the great advantage that if you will bid for Olympics, you have to have at least a certain percentage of the sports infrastructure. How about if you have 80%? No one of the African national federations
Yes.
happen to have even 75% or 60% or 50% from the sports infrastructure needed to organize such Olympic Games. And then you would need to prove that with the sites that you have. For instance, we have seen the World Shooting, it was here in Egypt, in the new sports city, was established by the country. You need only 10 holes to be able to do that. We have 20, and we have outstanding premises for hosting the cities, for being able to have a real elite standard of world competition. That was not by us was saying that. No, that was expressed by all the experts who are competing in that. So we're very proud. It has a lot of work, but it needs. It will need more than 1 decade to participate in that. It's not only the generation that we have here, the generation that we have right now might be able to have with the experience to help out of the, completing the file up to 25 to try to win. And then we would need, of course, to build from now a really good staff and good people to be able to have the great experience to manage the Olympic Games. For instance, we would need city to host the Olympic Village. And this city would be built and ready to be sold out before even the champions come and be there if Egypt will win, inshallah.
Yes.
So in this case, we will eager, of course, as an idea, the champions live in this apartment with their team to sign on a really signboard saying that I lived here during the Olympics, Olympic champion. So So it will give a great value, great incentive to the people of Egypt who is going to buy such a partner.
Yes.
In the meantime, the cars, we can deal with a big company for cars, and we start to have the cars to serve the Olympics, and in the meantime to be sold out with a certain percentage down discounted definitely, with the guarantee of this agency to be able to have the car as new when they have it, and they will have the maintenance not only 1 year but couple of years. This is not out of my own mind, but this is what happened with other experiences in other Olympic Games.
Yes. Well, General Nasser, what are the most important tournaments that Egypt have previously organized and was successful in organizing it?
Well, Egypt always have the success whatever they do. Egypt was hosting a lot of big things. During the time of Corona, all the countries were closed down, but Egypt was open to each and everything. For instance, I give an example of my sport, which is triathlon, which I'm honored to be the president of Egypt, Africa, and the Pan Arab. We hosted the African Games, African Championships during during COVID, and we had over 1,500 people, and we didn't have only one case. Why? Because we had the system. The Ministry of Youth and Sport, with the Ministry of Health, with the Interior, with the Defense, with all the ministers, were dealing together to show how good Egypt at the time. Everybody was closing and we were open, and we had a very successful African Championships. We had the World Championship for handball, and you have seen it was a lot of teams, and thank God there was not only one case for the COVID. There is a lot of them. I mean, a lot, and Egypt really enjoy with a lot of good organization during, not only during these days, but since now over 5 years, we have a really such a great organization. And thanks to President Sisi that he is encouraging and forcing the sport in the schools now for the people to try to be really having a good lifestyle, not only for the competitions,
yes,
but also for the lifestyle and health.
Yes, of course. General Nasser, what are the most important gains of the sports tourism, and how can we can they be invested?
Well, the matter of fact, there is already, I think, treatment between or agreement between the Ministry of Sport and Youth and Dr. Ashraf Subhi with the Ministry of Tourism for such a things, because they don't only think about that. They don't think also about only the competition, but they think what is behind the competition. Even that internally now is working. The Ministry of Youth and Sport start to do some activities all over in so many governorates. So it is not only that you have the outsourcing of the tourism, but also in-source tourism incentive with the sport. The matter of fact, as sport and Olympic sport, we have very important issue here, that we have also a race for the lifestyle. It is from 5 years old up to 90 years old. And if you are in your age group, you are a winner of the world, and your name would be put on the World International World Federation, that you are a winner of your age. So it means that the lifestyle now getting into more incentive to encourage the people to take part of challenging yourself to try to be a champion, not only to win a gold or silver or bronze medal or Olympic medal.
Yes, General Nasser, what are the importance and the advantages of the new Olympic city as Egypt is establishing the new administrative capital and it has a big or a great Olympic city out there. Could you give us an idea about the Olympic city there?
Well, the matter of fact, it has everything you can dream of, whether for the measurements, international measurements, and even the management. And I think there is a certain plan is already in place to try to be administrated during this coming year, definitely, to have the trials with the most important also sports, definitely. Yes. With the Olympic sports specifically because it is an Olympic Games. And then you can be able to understand that there's a certain plan, whether regional or continental or even a world class, to be able to prove that this is managed wonderfully, not only with that, but also with the entertainment part of it, which is very, very important. There is a really ambitious plan is already in place, and it's already cooperated with all the key people. Like, for instance, as I'm in charge of the sport of Africa, I had a meeting with His Excellency, the Minister of Youth and Sport, Dr. Ashraf Subhi, trying to discuss what kind of competitions that we can have up to not only the 25th, but also afterwards, to be able to have it in Egypt in these new premises and so on and so forth. So they are not, it's not only the Africans, but also the world. For instance, we have now 3 presidents of international federations nowadays. So I think we can be able to use that to try to dedicate some of the world competitions during this time. So it gives more weight to the CV to be able, when you have the bidding, that you have more than one world-class competition that it has already have been in this premises. So the premises really is a breathtaking.
Yes.
Really wonderful. Really, you have to be proud of it.
Yes. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Major General Ahmed Nasser, President of the Federation of the African Sports Federation. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I'm going to be back with you.
احنا بنجيب رجالة تشتغل معانا ونضع فيها الثقة في مشاريع بتتكلف عشرات المليارات ويمكن مئات المليارات كمان. واحنا لما بنيجي نتكلم في موضوع بنعمله مش بنعمله عشان يحل مسألة مؤقتة، لا احنا بنعمل موضوع يحل مسألة مستقبلية. وبحلم والله العظيم ان الحاجه دي تبقى حاجه معموله ترضي ربنا ثم ترضيك.